Learning the habits of guitar players is a much better way to maintain your own voice on the guitar and pick and choose all the best parts of our favorite guitar players. We're going to be talking about somebody very near and dear to my heart, my favorite living guitar player, Joe Satriani. And in these habits videos, in case you're new to my channel, I don't necessarily try and match the tone or teach you precise licks. I don't see as much value in that as finding the habits, teasing out the little methods and approaches of the best guitar players on the planet and adapting it to your own style and your own guitar playing. I will let you know what I'm using because I know some of you are gearheads just like me. So I have here a Crybaby, just a standard Crybaby, and I have a Compressor Plus from Keeley, as well as the Heavy from Empress Effects. So where to begin with Joe Satriani? First, I'll mention a lot of the techniques and approaches that I'll go over in this lesson are expanded on in depth in my course, Modern Rock Guitar Techniques, which is linked down in the description. So if you want more in-depth guidance on some of these techniques like legato and the crazy whammy bar stuff, then check out the course or just continue along with this video. The first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the tonality that Satch really implements in a lot of his guitar playing, which is, of course, the Lydian vibe, that dreamy sound that I really associate with Satriani and Steve Vai, who happened to be a student of Joe Satriani. So you can see where that influence comes from. So for the purposes of this lesson, we will be in E Lydian. And here's the E Lydian mode in case you don't know it. Now, as you may or may not know, every major scale mode has its own kind of characteristic note. In Lydian, it's that sharp 4 note that gives it that dreamy quality. So Satch really harps on that note, not only in his phrasing, but also in the harmony that he constructs his songs with. So in a very simple Flying in a Blue Dream style riff, where it's... It may or may not be in that key in the original recording, but that's essentially what he's doing. He's got that 4 major chord to a 5 major chord, and he's got these open strings ringing, giving it that airy quality. So with an F sharp, we've got just a regular F sharp triad, but then we have this B note. So from the root note, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and since it's an octave up, it is actually an 11. So this is an F sharp 11. And then he's got that flat 7 in there too with the open E. So that's where that dreamy sound comes from. So with that E chord, when you put the sharp 4 into the equation, there's a lot of tension there, and then when it resolves to this F sharp, you can hear it's a nice major third there for the F sharp. So that is how the Lydian mode works. Now, another thing that Satch does that a lot of virtuoso style guitar players do is he uses 3 notes per string to deliver a lot of his phrasing. So that means this Lydian mode, that is all 3 notes per string, obviously. It's a really accessible way to move throughout the neck in a really fluid motion. As we'll get into, Satch loves legato, and this is kind of his signature sound when he uses legato and 3 notes per string. So now I'm going to get into a little bit of the technique side of Satch's habits, what he likes to do most when he's at his pinnacle guitar hero awesomeness. So I mentioned legato. This is where we'll start. And a lot of different players have different styles of legato regarding their note choices, but Satch, I think, is kind of the originator when it comes to this kind of playing. You may say Alan Holdsworth was. I think that was Satch's primary influence. But really for me, Satch's legato is the truth. So I'm going to show you how he approaches it and his technique, and then you can kind of adapt it to your own comfort. So we will start with some of the basics. You want to grip the guitar neck just like you would be gripping, say if somebody gave you a stack of $100 bills. I'll take that. Just a nice, light, loose grip on the neck. You don't want your hand hanging over like this, like you would maybe with vibrato or bending. You're going to want to have a nice relaxed grip to allow your fingers to really spread out across the guitar neck. Next little piece of legato that I can recommend is the right hand muting technique. So as you can see, a lot of this depends on some finger strength in the left hand. You should really be able to do legato without even using your right hand. But there's an important part of the puzzle that when you're learning to do legato that you should employ, and this goes beyond legato. There's other techniques where this is useful, but your hand should lightly be taking care of the strings as you perform this technique. And this is to avoid string noise, obviously, that kind of stuff. So here's an example of poor technique in the right hand. It's wrong, as you can tell. But when we have some muting happening, again, there's many more examples and a deeper dive into legato in the Modern Rock Guitar Techniques course, which is linked down below if you're interested in that. Now let's move on to another Satch method, which will employ the use of a wah pedal, and it's basically sounding like an alien. He was kind of obsessed with aliens, I think. He even has an album called Surfing with the Alien, and people generally compare him to an alien. So we're going to learn some alien noises, some of these habits that make Satch's guitar sound otherworldly. So there's three kind of varieties of what I'm about to show you. They all involve a whammy bar, and they all involve some nice saturated distortion, wah pedal, and some delay. Here's the first one. You play a pinch harmonic and then you dive. So you can play a pinch harmonic anywhere. I find around the 3rd to 5th fret is where you can get some real meaty ones. The next version, which I think is actually the easiest one, and I've seen Satch do this live, where he'll actually play an open string. I'll play the open G. So at the bottom of the dive on that open string, he'll play the 24th fret, and if your guitar doesn't have 24 frets, then just play up near the pickup where you think a 24th fret would be, and you'll activate that harmonic. So play the open string, then hit the harmonic. Cool. And then the last one is where you hit that harmonic before the dive. Very cool. Next really cool thing that he does is this pick tapping technique. I like to leave on the wah for this too, just like a cool modulation effect that you achieve. We'll take a basic tapping pattern, so 17, 15, 12. And instead of this picking hand using your finger, you'll actually use the pick. So something like this. And I'm doing a couple quick taps. So that's the motion. And you can expand on this once you get comfortable with the technique to go to different frets and even slide your pick along the frets to achieve something like this. So you could see I was actually going all the way up the string off the fretboard and achieving some very Satriani-esque sounds. Now, not all of Satch's habits tend to be in the insane realm. He also has some really nice things that he does on the clean side of things, and one of them is this 4-finger tapping technique that I call the gallop technique. It's popularized in one of his songs called Midnight. This is just a little snippet from that tune so you can get a feel for this technique. So it's basically like playing a piano or something. I don't know, it's insane, but I really love this technique. You can translate it to a lot of different chords. Basically, take a couple notes that you like in the left hand and then add extensions, whether those are octaves or other intervals, and you can create your own music. So you can play something like this. So I'm basically just playing intervals that would add on nicely to this E power chord. And you can do anything you want to, but like I said, this kind of thing is really flashy and pretty simple. Basically, the action is hammer, hammer, and then the same exact motion, just in your opposite hand. Hammer, hammer. So Satch is obviously one of the most proficient guitar players on the planet. Being able to play with a pick and fingers is, I think, a crucial skill for any guitar player, no matter what genre you like to play. And the way Satch would approach things is always from a melodic perspective. That's the reason he's the most popular instrumental guitar player, in my opinion, is because of his ability to turn off the shred when he can and play melodically. Being able to do that in a chordal context is definitely one of his habits. Being able to convey music in all 3 elements, rhythm, harmony, and melody. So we have something like this. If we were to break that down, we'd find the bass happening, and then the melody happening. And of course, that really kind of classical Baroque, which happens to be the name of the song, that Baroque rhythm. Really beautiful. His attention to detail when it comes to the melody is, I think, unmatched when it comes to most guitar players. So being able to just think about melody, I always say melody is the hardest thing to teach to people, but being conscious of it, being aware, that is something that is true for all great guitar players. They have a very strong sense of melody and how it works over the harmony in a very cool rhythmic way. Again, you can check out my course, Modern Rock Guitar Techniques, link down in the description if you want a full overview. I could have just called the course Joe Satriani Guitar and it would have been pretty accurate. I'd like to leave you all with a quote from Joe Satriani. He said, "Keep it alive until you're 95, which to me means keep playing until you just can't play anymore."